Welcome to the T2 Hubcast. Join Martin, Dave, Spencer and guests as they discuss all things personal and professional development. The T2 Hubcast, brought to you by the People Performance People.
So welcome to another T2 Hubcast with me, Martin Johnson.
Dave Pendleton.
Hi, Dave. How are you doing?
Very, very well. You?
Yeah, good. Thank you, mate. Good. All
Nice.
good.
Nice.
Weather could be better this summer.
I don't know. You got a nice rosy forehead today.
Yeah.
So I think you must have experienced something over the
Yeah, well, I
weekend.
did the old classic. It was cloudy and overcast at the weekend, and I was at a festival. And as you know, with these things, you spend all day in the open air thinking, well, it's not very good weather. And then I woke up the next morning, bright pink in usual British fashion. So, yeah, a bit sore, but hopefully we'll get a good run at it soon, mate, in terms of the British summer.
Is it beer rash?
Yeah, probably. So rather than us talk about our weekend, we wanted to jump in and record a hubcast. And one of the areas that we'd sort of, we just looked at recently, Dave, in terms of where we were pretty light on the hub in terms of content areas was the customer experience / customer service area. We've got a huge amount of content on the hub in terms of pathways and videos, etc. But we just wanted to jump in the hubcast room and talk about something. And I challenged Dave this morning to say, come up with something that you are delivering quite a lot at the minute, which is proving practical and beneficial for customer service agents, advisors, managers, etc. So I think we're going to call this, Dave, the 3 major customer service
Contributing factors towards poor service.
Contributing factors towards poor service. Thanks for that, mate. You bailed me out there.
No worries.
It's the 3 major contributing factors towards poor customer service. Now, we're not trying to be negative here, and we're not putting a negative slant on it. But what we're saying is there are many contributing factors to both good and bad customer service. But what Dave observes quite a lot in organizations who he works with is the same big 3 sort of, happening.
Real correlations.
Happening
real
time and time
correlations.
again. So we want service personnel and teams to sort of listen to this and think about, are we falling foul of this in our organization? And if so, what can we do differently? Is that fair to say, Dave?
Yeah, absolutely. And, as well as highlight what those 3 major contributing factors are, we're going to give you a couple of nice little easy takeaways that's going to help you in any of those situations.
Awesome. Love it. Right. So where are we starting with this, David? We're just going to jump in and start with number 1, the first major contributing factor to poor service that you observe in organizations.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess these are the 3 in no particular order.
Okay.
Neither is more important or less important than the other. And the first one is emotion. The reason I've said emotion is because quite frequently businesses that we work with in terms of customer service teams and upskilling customer service teams, they will send customer service call recordings in advance. As with sales and so forth, we do the same with sales, don't we? Just so I can get a flavour about the type of language people are using, the type of situations and scenarios that customers are calling in with. Is it the process that's stopping service? Whatever it might be, just so I can get a real, I guess, a bit of background. So when we deliver the insight and training, we can position that relatively accurately into their world.
Yeah. So when you say emotion, then give me an example of what you mean.
Well, I mean, the first place to start is clearly that customer service people have a very, very hard job, because probably 90% of the customers that they ever deal with are cheesed off in some way or another to some level or another. I mean, very rarely does anybody phone up a customer service team and say, hey, just giving you a quick call. Everything's great with my service.
You're completely
Delivery
amazing.
Was brilliant. This is the best service I've ever had. So thank you very much.
Yeah.
It's usually the polar extreme.
So therefore, what you're saying is sometimes people forget that customer service advisors and operatives are human beings themselves. And if they are for a period of time constantly on the end of in all intensive purposes, attack or criticism, or, somebody who is disgruntled at you or your organization, that can take its toll on you, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Your emotions can become elevated, and you become counterproductive in your ability to deal with customers.
Absolutely.
Because there's only so much you can take as a human being, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, some of the very best customer service people that I've ever come across and had the privilege of working with, understand the difference between the emotion and the situation. And unfortunately, I guess this is why I've started with emotion, is because lots of customer service people that I do work with, as you well know, they are triggered very quickly because the customer is on the offensive. They are potentially on the attack. They are emotionally elevated. So, from the other work that we do around the chimp and the chimp paradox, what's the very first thing that we do? We defend ourselves.
Yeah.
We defend our position.
And even though that might not come across on a call, because you're still mindful professionally that you're a customer service agent representing this company. So sometimes it don't come across as how it would with your friends down the pub or a family dispute. It can come across as sarcastic, as defensive,
prickly, or negative,
unempathetic.
Or a bit withdrawn, because that's one of the other symptoms of high levels of emotion. People withdraw.
Yeah, absolutely. So are you saying therefore then the big three, the emotion or letting your emotions get the better of you or become out of control is probably one of the most common, flaws of customer service advisors out there?
It's certainly one of the three that we're going to talk about today. Yeah, definitely.
Cool.
Yeah, and that's whether customer service handlers get too emotionally involved and can become negative towards the customer because the customer has been negative towards them, which is understandable.
Yeah.
They can either withdraw, which in either case, it's not going to
solve
help the
problem.
Customer,
yeah, absolutely.
It doesn't help them either.
So what is your simple tips? I mean, because we could talk about this all day long, and it isn't easy, right? We're all human. It isn't easy. But what are your simple tips on how to, first of all, you've got to recognize when your emotions are becoming elevated or counterproductive.
Absolutely.
So recognition is the first part.
Yes.
Second part, what do you do?
Well, yeah, absolutely. And we talk about this in the session with the chimp paradox all the time. So I think essentially you've got to understand, and this is before even starting to manage it, you've got to understand that emotion, you dealing with other people's emotions and your own, are part of the job. 100% part of the job.
Yeah, I get it.
On inbound customer experience call handle, if you like. So I guess that's the first thing to come to terms with.
So you're saying acknowledgement there.
Yes.
Acknowledge that you're going into a role designed to potentially press your buttons and trigger your emotions.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you're going to be on the end of problems and disgruntled customers. A
lot of the time.
If you go into the job thinking that no way can anybody speak to me like that, then you're going to have a tough time, right?
100%.
Yeah.
And if you've got a mindset like that, you will behave like that. And that creates the poor experience for a customer.
Cool. All right. That makes sense.
So I mean, there is there's a short a tool that we use, I guess. What's an acronym? That's right. That's the right word. Isn't it?
Yeah.
An acronym, LAST.
Right.
So the very first thing you've got to do when you are listening to, any customer, regardless of whether they are emotionally elevated or not, but particularly when they are emotionally elevated, is you've got to listen to them.
So just before you go into this, Dave, this is, because I think this is gold dust for any customer service advisor listening. So there's an acronym, LAST, L-A-S-T, and this is the technique you would use if you to allow yourself to not be dragged off in an emotional direction or emotional state. So go on. Yeah. First one, the L of LAST is listen.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's particularly important in any customer service situation, but particularly when people are emotionally elevated. So because we've all worked on techniques where we allow the customer to vent, where we allow them time to air their frustrations, their perspective, their opinions, talk to us about whatever has gone wrong. Now, the really important part about listening is we have to, as we say, listen with the intent to understand and not reply, because just saying that every customer is going to be the same is unfair on the customer, and it's going to make your job harder. So you've got to listen really quite intently to everything the customer says, because you might just hear a golden nugget that's going to help you with this possible solution later.
And even though for some people in this moment you want to speak, right? You want to
chip in,
answer the question,
fight your
corner, fight your organization's corner. Those customer service advisors or professionals who can remain and consciously say, listen, I want to talk and I want to answer that objection and I want to put you right or straight. Those who go, no, I have to listen.
Correct.
In this moment, I
Absolutely.
understand the importance of listening, and it takes some discipline and some practice,
Yes, it
because
does.
you're
Yep.
humans, right? And you
Absolutely.
want to interject and say, no, Mr. Customer,
You've got it
that's
wrong.
not true.
That's not how it was.
Yeah.
And it might not be how it was, but that's how it was from the customer's perspective.
So listen.
And that's the only perspective that's important at this time.
Like it, Dave. Okay, what's the A in last?
Well, immediately after you've allowed the customer to say everything they're going to say, and we know, because of some of the sort of neuroscience and psychology stuff that we do, that if somebody is emotionally elevated and we let them talk until they've got nothing else to say and they've almost run out of steam, they feel better. Instantly, they feel better. So allow them freedom to do that. But then the very first words that come out of our mouth next, and potentially some of the most crucial words that we can use in the call, because it's the words that will set the tone for how the call continues. Now, this is going to be a little controversial, because the A in last is for apologize. Now, when I say that in a room full of people, there's always somebody who puts around them and say, so we're supposed to apologize for the customer having a go at us? No, that's not what we're apologizing for. So we're supposed to apologize because the customer wasn't in and missed their delivery slot? No, that's not what we're apologizing for. And it takes a little while for them to actually get to the right conclusion, where all we're apologizing for is how this situation has made them feel. That's it. We're not talking about the parcel, the sofa. We're not talking about a product or service. We are talking one human to another human, and we are displaying genuine human empathy. Mr. Smith, may I first start off by saying I am really sorry for the way that this situation has made you feel.
Love that. I
totally understand why you feel this way.
I love that. Because for many, they don't want to apologize. Even the thought of an apology is positioned in their own mind around the fact that they're personally apologizing, like they've done something, and that's not the case.
That's not the case.
You've got to, as a customer service advisor, you've got to remove yourself from the situation, but still apologize for the way the situation has made them feel.
Correct,
it's not you apologizing saying I've done anything wrong, or at this moment in time I can even establish who's done something wrong. I'm just apologizing for the way this has made you feel.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. And that sets the tone for the next 5 minutes, 10 minutes duration of the call, whatever.
Well, it disarms them. It just sort of brings them back down to, if they're elevated themselves emotionally, hopefully it just brings them back down a level so you can deal with their human brain and have a more rational conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. And guaranteed the customer will, if they've ever heard it before, it'll be absolutely few and far between. So just the very fact that you've said that will actually make them pause and think, hang on a minute, a customer service advisor apologizing for the way I feel. This is unusual.
Do you know what I really like? And I'm thinking of a few examples now of where I've been on calls where customer service advisors have actually said, I'm sorry, Mr. Johnson, for what's happened or for the way this has made you feel. Instantly followed by, let's see if we can resolve this for you.
Absolutely.
So when someone says to me, I'll do my very best, or let's see if we can get this fixed for you, I go, great.
You believe them, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Sure.
So the L is listen. Listen with the intent to understand, not just waiting for your turn to talk.
No, absolutely not.
A is apologize.
Yes.
And it's not an apology that you've done something wrong or your company has at this point. You're just apologizing for the situation the customer finds themselves in.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. Because, once you investigated the full situation, it might well be that your company or the product or service that you provide to the customer has in fact done anything wrong.
Yeah.
So why apologize for it in advance when you don't need to?
Yeah. Or it might be that you have. Either way.
It might be that we have. Absolutely.
Either way, the situation is still, you've got to be empathetic with the customer,
Correct.
right? Okay. Yeah. So what's the S? Moving it on.
Well, the S sort of, skips forward really towards, the middle towards the latter end of the call, which is around solving. We really need to do our very, very best to solve whatever problem the customer has. Now, there are different levels of solution because, in a very real and fair world, the solution might not be as obvious as other solutions. There might be a little bit more investigation we need to do. We may need to look at notes. We may need to speak to other people. We might need to speak to warehouse, logistics. There could be a whole bunch of stuff that we need to gather information and data from before we can actually solve the problem. But what we have to do, a little bit like you just said there, is we have to communicate to the customer that we are about to start solving the problem for them.
Yeah. Yeah. And what I'm putting you on the spot here, Dave, but I'm sure you're rounded well enough to sort of have the answers. What's an example of good communication in terms of you've listened, you've acknowledged, apologized, you're moving into the solution part of the conversation. What's the type of language you'd expect? I mean, you always talk about forward-thinking language, which is solution-focused, but what's the type of example you would give on how good customer service would make that transition into that part of the call?
Well, a massive part of this, because as I said, there are different levels of solution. Some things we might be able to sort straight away, immediately, and if that's the case, then brilliant. Other times we might not. But certainly there's a few words that I would pick on here. Things like integrity and setting expectations. Because frequently I've been dealing with a customer service person who hasn't got all the facts and figures. They don't know all the details, and that's fair. I totally understand that as a disgruntled customer. But it's when they say to me, I don't know enough about this, so I'm going to have to investigate it. I say, okay, fine, no problem. And they say, I will get back to you by 4:00 today. I say, okay, fine, no problem. 4:00 comes and goes. 4:00 the next day comes and goes. And I have got to spend time out of my day yet again calling in.
Yeah.
And what they don't understand is that I'm already emotionally elevated. They've set my expectations. They've let me down once again from my perspective. So all that's happening to my emotions is that they're re-elevated.
Yeah. So when you move into the S, the solution phase, I think what you're saying is we've got to try our level best to sort and resolve there and then.
Yep, where possible.
However, if we can't, for any reason, there has to be some cast iron integrity and commitment around, I'm not going to put you out any further.
100%.
I am personally going to do this and fulfilling it.
Even if we get to the 4:00 that day and we recontact the customer and say, I'm not much further on, but I'm still on it.
But I'm letting you know. Don't
worry.
Yeah.
I told you I would phone you back by 4, so I'm phoning you back just to let you know I'm not any further on. However, this is where I am, and this is what.
And the problem comes in many customer service centres, Dave. As you know, the problem comes is with the ticketing system, and if the original person takes the incoming and they can't solve it there and then, so the ticket is ongoing and outstanding, and then the shift change happens and someone else picks that up. You've got different people dealing with the same issue and there's no continuity there. So do you believe that in organizations, the way you're set up and the way you empower from a systems and processes perspective, your customer service agents to deal with the same person or to resolve quickly is really important, isn't it? But even to your point, if that person was going off shift at 4:00 and it was like, Dave, I'm just ringing you back. Because it's not resolved yet. But listen, I've left a note on my computer.
Correct.
Sam is coming in and is going to be taking over me. And I've left a note for him to pick this up and give you a call first thing in the morning.
Absolutely.
Even just that courtesy of continuity on the solution is important, right?
Yep. And I'm back on at 3:00 tomorrow afternoon, and I will call you to see how much further on we are.
Yeah.
Just some ownership. Some real ownership.
But the S is moving into the solution. You firstly listened, you've then apologized for the situation and acknowledged. Now you're moving into the solution. And that could, like you say, it can be an array of different things. There's it can be anything. But that integrity and that will to make sure that you drive the solution for the customer is key. Yeah,
absolutely. And I guess I've got another sort of service cycle type scenario that we'll dig a little bit deeper into the S, into the solution.
Okay, let's move this on then. So the T.
The T stands for thank. Now, when I say to people in a training situation, we must always thank the customer for getting in touch with us. People instantly raise their hand and say, Dave, are you saying that I should thank somebody for shouting and screaming down the phone at me? And I say, well, listen, we're not thanking them for being irate or aggressive or, however, in an extreme scenario, this customer has been with us. What we're doing is we're thanking them for getting in touch and talking us through a very specific problem today. And this leads on to a separate piece, which is around the difference between reactive and proactive customer service. Because as you know, we do a whole piece on proactive and how to be more proactive in customer service. And the only way we can be proactive in customer service is to find the correlations of where our products and services are letting our customers down.
Yeah, the trends, the data.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
If Luke, like I always use the KLM example, don't I, in proactive customer service.
Yeah, absolutely.
If an organization realizes that the number one complaint over a yearly period was lost baggage, then what is the airline doing to proactively, right, increase that experience?
People lose their baggage.
Or if they do, they don't have to let the customer worry about the resolution. They're already on it, right? So what you're saying is it's intelligence, it's business intelligence coming in, and you should thank them for that, because it's going to help you create a better service.
Yeah, well, we know businesses that send out customer satisfaction surveys once a year, twice a year, and so forth. And if you get a 6% return on that, that's a really good number. But then what's the quality of that 6%? So actually, if you're in a service center and you're taking customer service calls all day long, listen to those customers, because they are telling you where you can improve your business.
Yeah.
I wrote a white paper and published it on LinkedIn on the power of negative feedback. Correlate the data, crunch the numbers, understand where your business is letting your customers down from a genuine perspective, and then do something about it.
Yeah. I
know it's not that straightforward, but as a principle, it absolutely works.
So customer service advisors, Dave, when you finish any interaction, so let's go through last, you listen with the intent to understand. You hold off your own emotion.
Correct.
And understand no matter how much you want to butt in or justify or answer a question or respond, you need to listen until they have finished speaking. Then you've got to apologize. Now, whether this is not a personal apology, nor is it an apology at the minute that you accept any liability. What it's saying is, I'm sorry you find yourself in this situation and it's made you feel like this.
I understand how you feel, and I would feel the same.
And then the S is moving towards the solution, but only after we've done the L and the A.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the integrity around and the commitment around driving the solution to an outcome with the customer is the most important thing. And we're going to come on to the service cycle now with the time we've got left on the solution. And then the T is thank. Thank you for your input. This is invaluable to us, and it will help us provide a better service going forward.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Right. 9 minutes left then, Dave. Do you want to go through the cycle? So you touched upon there around the customer service cycle. So when you're in that solution part of last, what's the right type of steps to take to make sure you stand the best chance of solving that problem?
Absolutely. Okay. Absolutely. So I mean, this is one of the other three contributing factors, which is the skill.
Yeah.
More than too frequently, I deal with service advisors that either are very poorly trained or display very poor traits and habits.
Because they don't have the skill.
Because they don't have the skill,
or
the other contributing factor, which is care. They just don't care. The amount of customer service people that I speak to who could not give a toss about me, how I feel, and so forth. And I say, if that's the case, you need to get a job in sales and customer service. Bit tongue in cheek, of course.
Yeah, salespeople don't write in and have a go at us for that. Yeah, we're salespeople too.
So in terms of skill, poor training. If you are unfortunate to be working in a customer-facing environment, whether it's on the phone or face-to-face, and you are not provided with training, or it's very infrequent, or it might be frequent but it's quite low quality, or whatever else. If you just stick to these basic guidelines, you won't go too far wrong. Okay. So pickup time. I always talk about pickup time being incredibly important in a service environment, because nine customers from 10 are going to be emotionally elevated, to some level or another. The longer they wait to speak to you, the worse they get.
Yeah.
Nobody ever cools through time. They boil through time.
So when I can think of examples, you're already disgruntled and you're 14 minutes on listening to the same music, saying you're number 14 in the queue. And all you want to do, your day's now been disrupted. You only get warmer and hotter.
That's right.
By the time they pick up.
Correct. So pickup time, get to that call as soon as humanly possible. Absolutely. Don't watch the call waiting times go up and up and up because you can't bother to answer it.
Yeah.
Just pick the phone up. The second part after that is take details on what the query is. Now, as we mentioned when we were talking about last, again, 9 customers from 10 will be quite happy to tell you what the query is, what their problems are, where the problems lie, where you've let them down, where the company, product or service has failed them, what a waste of money it might be, etc., 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 etc. So that's why we say listen with the intent to understand, So you understand this customer's perspective, not what the general consensus of calls might contain.
Love it.
Make sure you write that down, because I've not yet come across anybody who's got a photographic memory who can remember all these details and then regurgitate 100% accurately out of their head. And the next part is to clarify everything.
Yeah.
Just to make sure I've got this right, Mr. Smith. Once you can do that and you can accurately replay the details of the query and their customer details, the customer will start to have a little bit of faith in you as an advisor.
Yeah.
This person is listening. I might get somewhere, which is going to make their emotions slow down a little.
And you imagine that. You pick up on time, you let them speak, you write things down. So there's
you
nothing
apologize that they're emotionally elevated.
There's nothing lost in translation. I then replay back your problem to you and you go, yes.
That's exactly where I'm at.
Right.
Thank you very much for listening. Yeah. Obviously, because most customer service people are relatively experienced in what they do, and that's great. So as they are listening, they will be starting to plan the solution. They'll kind of know what to do next. So again, it comes back to the last scenario where we do start to plan the solution, whatever that solution might look like for this customer.
Yeah.
Can we solve it immediately? Brilliant if we can. If not, and this is the next part of the service cycle, what other considerations do I have? Who else do I need to speak to? What investigation do I need to carry out to get to the bottom of this situation and scenario?
Whether it's speaking to a different department, escalating to your boss, whatever it might be.
Yeah, absolutely.
You've decided that, having heard what I've heard, I cannot resolve this here and now on my own.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Communicate what the way forward is. If it's not an immediate solution, communicate what the way forwards is. Set expectations, display integrity, call back, send emails, whatever you need to do. Whatever you've promised a customer, you just do it. And then when it comes to actually presenting the solution, now this is a really integral thing for me. Lots of customer service people tell you what they're going to do, and that's okay. But when I say, do you know what, that can't work for me, it creates a stale environment, which is not progressive. So I guess this is where I've got a slightly different suggestion. It's agree the way forward and the solution with the customer.
So it's mutually agreed, like we say in sales. Correct. A mutually agreed plan.
A mutually agreed plan. Yeah. So if it involves a delivery or some sort of commitment to the customer, find out when is best for them.
Yeah.
Rather than just say the lorry comes your way next Blue Tuesday at 9 a.m. You need to be there, otherwise you'll miss it again.
Or my worst ever, it will be with you between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m.
Absolutely.
Well, what good is that to me?
So the customer says, I've got to take a day off work. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So you've got to agree the right way forward for this customer with this solution. It might be a little bit tailored, but this is customer services we're in. Get it?
Yeah, and that's the cycle.
That's the cycle. Yeah. Absolutely. And like I said, if you don't consider, the trainer investment in you very highly, if you stick to those basic steps, you won't go too far wrong.
So with 2 minutes left, Dave, I just want you to very quickly just go through them steps again. So number one was pick up. Pick up time is important.
Yep. Take details and query.
Number two.
Number three, clarify everything back to the customer to make sure you've heard them correctly.
Yeah.
Start to plan the solution and communicate the way forwards with other considerations. And then the final thing is agree the way forward with the customer.
Mutually agreed plan. Awesome. Okay, so there were two of the three the fundamentals. We literally have a minute or so left. What was the last one out of interest, Dave? And I know you probably can't do it justice in a minute on this Hubcast. We maybe return. But what was it? What was the third big fundamental?
So there was emotion.
Yeah.
Trying to take emotion out of the situation, deal with the human, then deal with the situation, not the emotion.
Yeah. There was skill.
Care. You've got to care about customers. If you are in a service role and you don't care about customers, I guarantee two things are happening. Customers are not happy with the service that you're providing, and you won't be happy in your role.
Love it.
Absolutely. So the final thing is skill.
Yeah. So emotion, skill, and care. You've got to, control your own emotions and not respond to other people's elevated state.
Yeah.
You know, you've got to be mindful of that. You also have to have the right skill and training to follow a service cycle like you described.
It's a hard job.
It is.
You need to
So
be
you
well
need
trained.
training, right? You can't just
Yes.
pick up a script and off you go,
No.
which is many people's onboarded. And thirdly, it was caring. You've got to have a natural trait of empathy. You've got to see and appreciate situations from other people's perspective. And if
Correct.
you so, you will be natural within customer service.
And if it was you, how would you want to be dealt with?
Exactly.
Simple, right?
With 29 minutes and 30 seconds, Dave, that brings us to the end of this Hubcast. I could talk to you all day long, but I think there's some real reminders there. Sometimes as blatantly obvious as they are, there's some real reminders of what we need to be mindful of within great customer service. So, Dave, thank you very much. And we'll maybe be back with another T2 Hubcast in this section shortly, yeah?
My pleasure.
Thanks, Dave.